And now from Public Square in the heart of Cleveland, Ohio, Inside the NFL with your hosts Len Dawson and Nick Bonacotti.
Hello, everybody. Nick, as we look around, this is all part of Cleveland's Public Square, laid out in 1796, not for the city, but for the people of Cleveland. Well, physically, this might be the heart of Cleveland, but emotionally, the hearts of the people are with their sports team.
Hey, I don't know if you know this, but no Cleveland sports team has won a championship of any kind since 1964. And to say that this city here is starved for a title would be ridiculous.
Well, talking about ridiculous, going from the ridiculous to the sublime. When the Browns quarterbacks, Kosar, Danielson, Pagel, went down with injury, it looked very bleak for the Cleveland Browns. But somehow, this team found a way to stay together and get back in contention. Now, it looked to me like Cincinnati was going to blow this division wide open. But last Sunday, the Dogs and those Cleveland Browns made a tight race of it.
Lenny, I'll tell you what, the reason that Cleveland's only one game behind Cincinnati, in my mind, is very simple. It's because of our guys who are tenderly known here as the Dogs. You know, this Cleveland defense gave Bernie Kosar a chance to get healthy, and in my opinion, they go to be the odds-on favorite to win their division.
Well, the Cleveland fans are going to be happy to hear that, but Cincinnati and Houston will be contented with. You know, as well as anybody, you can't win Super Bowls without great defenses. And last week, a couple of teams put their teams on course toward the Super Bowl, the Rams and Buffalo. Last week, we had Bobby Hebert on the show, the quarterback of the Saints, and he said, boy, my running attack is great. They really helped me in my performance. Well, the Rams defense held him to 33 yards rushing, and in my opinion, the Rams defense is a lot better than I thought.
Hey, we knew Buffalo was going to be good, Lenny, but we go from the good status to the best status. As Bruce Smith terrorizing quarterbacks in the National Football League, this young defense have given the Buffalo Bills the best record in the NFL with an 8-1 record. In the 3 games you're about to see, all the teams except the Green Bay Packers played championship caliber defense, but none more ferocious than the Dogs of Cleveland.
The tranquil exterior of Cleveland Stadium masks a dog-eat-dog world. In this environment, neither fans nor players are kept on a tight leash.
Knock their ass down, baby. Go to the next one.
Let's go. Get good yardage on the 17 kick. We're going to pound them a little bit.
While the Browns entered the contest as the AFC's top-rated defense, it was the Bengals who made the big defensive plays by picking off 2 Bernie Kosar passes in the first half.
That's all right. That's all right.
Kosar's going to throw. He's back, looks, dumps it out of bounds. Intercepted by Kosar. Down 5, touchdown. He tried to get it. A little duck pass out there.
All right. Booyah!
But Cleveland issued an immediate and forceful response to Fulcher's theft, courtesy of Herman Fontenot, number 28. Fontenot's 84-yard kickoff return set up the game's only offensive touchdown.
I'm going to run 39 until 39 boss. Sack, too tight, 39 boss. All right. Put it in there, put it in there. We need it.
Here's a handoff to Manoa, trying to swing right. He has an opening. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, touchdown.
Defensive determination and a deafening roar contributed to the demise of a second-quarter Cincinnati drive when the Bengals attempted to convert a 4th and 1 from the Cleveland 11.
Go offense!
And they never get this play off as the dog pound goes to work. And Esiason reaches under center. Turns around and looks at Wilson and Woods. Esiason turns and hands off. Ickey Woods at the 11, and I don't think he got it. And the Bengals didn't get it. You can tell by the roar of the bleacherites. The dog pound is going crazy.
Don't get in your 3-point stance. Stay in a 2-point until Boomer does it, and you can count on it being 5 or 10 minutes. I don't care how long it is. If it's 30 minutes, stay out there.
Despite Sam Weich's pleas for patience, the NFL's highest-scoring offense never got untracked. The Bengals were finally KO'd by a 1-2 punch supplied by the combination of Cleveland's defense and special teams. When number 31 Frank Minifield looped around to find an unobstructed gap to punter Scott Fulhage, the resulting touchdown secured a 23-16 Cleveland victory.
Blocked by Frank Minifield. Rolling loose. Herbert Botno picks it up for a touchdown.
Cincinnati is now just one game ahead of Cleveland, and the Bengals can hear those dogs nipping at their heels. Both the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams are doing backflips over their defenses. And in the battle for first place in the NFC West, both units made offenses do belly flops. The defenses triggered explosions, and several plays blew up in the quarterback's face. The Saints, who have been accused of winning ugly, managed only one pretty play.
Shotgun stands at the 10. Looks to his left. Throws in the corner for Hill.
Lonzel Hill's touchdown could not overcome 4 field goals by Mike Lansford as the Rams' 12-10 victory gave them a 7-2 record and a share of the division lead. While both the Rams and Saints have doctored their defenses this season, Green Bay's Lindy Infante is known as the high priest of offensive football. But in Buffalo, the Packers could have used a faith healer to cure their assorted miseries. The Pack, who would seem to be on the upswing in recent weeks, were overturned, then body slammed by a Bills defense that converted 2 turnovers into touchdowns.
Kowski has a running play, a fumble, and the Bills pick it up. It's loose. Now they get it again, and down into the end zone. Let's see if it's a touchdown. Seals was the man who wound up in the end zone with the ball. And it's a touchdown for the Bills. Bukowski splits the backs, drops back to throw, and he comes forward. A flag on the play. It's intercepted there by Kelso at the 25, at the 30, at the 35, 40, 45, midfield, down to the 40, breaks into the clear at the 30. One man with an angle on him. A touchdown.
Defense was the cornerstone in this 28-0 shutout victory, and defense has been the foundation for a Bills team which now owns the NFL's best record this season. Even in Cleveland, a dog has a way with words. Bark like a dog, you Browns fan. Whoop, yelp and growl, bang, yip and howl. And bark like a dog, you Browns fan.
Life in a dog pound was certainly never like this. Even a mongrel would do well in Cleveland now that the Browns are back in contention. Our first guest is a man who would never pass up a good fire hydrant if he saw it. A former Golden Domer, the fulcrum of the Cleveland defense, Bob Golic. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
First question, when you're down near that end zone and the people, the fans start to bark, what's it like?
Well, you know, the fans in Cleveland have always been, they kept saying the last couple of years they were thankful of what we've done for the city. You know, we've always told them we get so much energy from the people down there with the mask and the face painted, and we really derive so much energy that it really helps the team work out. And, you know, people come up and they say, you know, do you think it's intimidating for other teams to go down there and play on that end of the field? And I tell them, it's intimidating for me to go down there, so it's got to be intimidating for the other teams.
You had so many injuries on your ball club this year. How did you guys hang so tough together?
Well, you know, we've been through a lot, and over the last few years we've had a tremendous amount of success. Obviously not the ultimate goal, but success nonetheless. And it's the guys enjoy it. You know, we're finding out that that's fun, and success as well as failure can be infectious. When the things started going wrong, we just kind of pulled ourselves together, drew on that energy and those old feelings, and said, you know, we can still come back. It's early in the season, and really regrouped and kept the whole team going.
You know, you look at your Cleveland ball club and you look at the defense. One of the raps has been the lack of a pass rush. You look at the last 3 ball games, 19 sacks, 29 sacks for the season. What changed?
Well, you know, we're a team that runs a multiple defensive front, which means I come out often every once in a while. Pure passing situations, we do go to the nickel defense, as many do. And at one end, we're using Clay Matthews, a very quick, very fast, actually an outside linebacker, using him as a down lineman. And on the other side, with the addition of Charles Buchanan, who is another defensive lineman, but about 240 pounds. And I think the additional speed on the inside, on the outside, with the Carl Harrison and the Sam Clancy's working in the middle, really it opens things up and allows a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Bob, I want to talk about your position, the nose tackle position, because I follow it fairly closely. It used to be when somebody was blocking a defensive lineman, they just go right from here to block. Now, tell the folks about who was all coming after you, tight ends, backs, and everything else. What's it like there?
That was back when the offensive line was an honorable position, and they didn't have to double team and triple team nose tackles. It's somewhat brutal, and I think the theory on a lot of teams is if you can dent the inside of the line, put pressure on that point, it really makes it difficult for the linebackers to get their reads too. So they really put a lot of pressure. There's double teams inside. Last game there was a few triple teams in passing situations that you just stand there and get bounced back and forth. And now they started doing the exciting block, which we call a wham block, which entails the center kind of setting you up and leading you one way, and as you think you're doing well against them, a tight end or a little running back comes by and hits you in the ribs. So it's always exciting, and often wonders, you're trying to figure out where those bruises are going to develop the next day.
What do you expect? A couple of bumps and bruises. At least you have your intelligence and your fine good looks.
Well, that's very nice of you to say that.
Bob, good luck to you the rest
Thank you very much.
Stay healthy. It's not easy, I know, in the pits.
Yeah, but it's fun.
All right. Well, the defense of the Cleveland Browns did not permit Boomer Esiason, the top-rated quarterback in the National Football League, to rise to the occasion, so the Browns won. But there were some quarterbacks last week that did rise to the occasion and showed folks there is some good offense still left in the NFL.
With Joe Montana sidelined last Sunday, Steve Young's murky status as half-starter, half-backup was temporarily made clear. Young, however, hoped to resolve the situation for good.
With Young back to throw on first down from his own 27, lays it out long for Taylor, who's open, and Taylor's going to score! Brad Edwards fell down, and Taylor takes it in, 73-yard touchdown!
Like Young, Minnesota's Wade Wilson has seen his role yo-yo from top dog to second banana, and he had just as much on the line.
Wade steps up, fires on the run, complete. Anthony Carter on the crossing pattern, 45-40. He's into San Francisco territory, 30, 20. Anthony Carter all the way down the sideline, but a flag is down.
The flag was thrown. Now I think he's being overruled by another official.
For 58 minutes, Wilson outdueled Young, and the Vikings led 21-17. As they did in the playoffs last year, the Vikings held Jerry Rice in check, forcing Young to carry the comeback burden by himself. With 4 sacks, it appeared Minnesota...
9-yard touchdown by Steve
Young. Claimed the starting job. But Young's honor may be short-lived, for the injured Joe Montana is the kind of competitor who always seems to come back just when you think you don't have him to kick around anymore. Indeed, it has become trendy for personalities long thought disgraced to return to the scene in newfound glory. Just ask the Chicago Bears about their former cast-off quarterback, Doug Flutie.
Wide open, Irving Fryer down the left sideline. Cuts back in at the 30. Fryer's going to go all the way. Touchdown, Patriots!
America's midget was among the kinder ways in which his ex-teammates referred to him. But Flutie's fully grown friends in New England kept his old cronies at bay, and he cut the Bears down to size. After 4 Flutie touchdown passes, the Bears were looking for a knife and fork to help them eat their words, as they also swallowed their second loss of the season, 30-7. Like Flutie, Houston's Warren Moon had something to prove last Sunday. His Oilers hadn't beaten a .500 team yet this season, and a loss to the Redskins would have caused a panic in the Dome. Fortunately for Drew Hill, panic is not in Moon's game day vocabulary, and the veteran passer stuck to his guns.
Free play, throws at the end zone. Hill caught it this time. Houston scores.
From that moment, Moon kept his sights focused on Hill, and by doing so, he put a new perspective on the AFC Central race. Moon hit Hill Buffalo for 3 touchdowns as Houston proved it had the offensive firepower to keep pace with Cincinnati and Cleveland in the standings and on the scoreboard.
There's a sprinter on a Pinkett, hit by one man, gets away at the 15. Pinkett at the 10. Pinkett at the 5. Pinkett dives. Touchdown!
Alan Pinkett's 16-yard scoring run helped Houston pull away to a 41-17 win. But the night belonged to Moon, who accounted for 4 total touchdowns. Like Steve Young and Doug Flutie, Warren Moon proved that a team in danger of falling out of a division race has nothing to worry about, just as long as it has a quarterback who can rise to the occasion. Next Monday night's game between Houston and Cleveland matches Warren Moon, who has never defeated the Browns, up against Bernie Kosar, who has never lost to the Oilers.
I think you can throw those stats right out the window because these two teams are completely different from those of the past. Besides that, they're playing prime time Monday night in the Dome. It should be a terrific game. Our next guest is a man who not only is respected by his peers because of his ability on the field, but he has brought pride and enthusiasm to this organization and to this city. From Boardman, Ohio, just down the road, the one and only Bernie Kosar, as we listen to these youngsters in the background call your name out, Bernie. Bernie, I understand that you made the quote that Houston defense gives you as many problems as anybody else. Why is that?
Well, yeah, this will be my 4th year playing against the Oilers defense, and they're really one of the most physical, aggressive football teams in the league, and they pride themselves on playing bump and run coverage and being aggressive, and they like to come after you, and that poses a mental and physical problem for you as an offensive unit.
How do you attack them?
I think the biggest thing that you need to do when you're trying to attack an aggressive defense is you need to be patient and not expect for each play to be successful, to be able to tell yourself that, hey, this play isn't going to go good, throw the ball away and come back and try again the next time, and be patient and don't make that big mistake.
You are known as an intelligent quarterback, and I know that quarterbacks, at least in the past, love to call the plays. What about you? How much freeway do you have?
Well, Marty has been our offensive coordinator and has been calling the plays, and he's shown an awful lot of trust in myself as a quarterback, giving me the ability to audible anytime I see something I'd like to take advantage at the line. And also, he has really told me that if a play comes in and it doesn't sound right or you don't feel comfortable with it, you have really the complete freedom to change the play in the huddle.
I'll tell you what does a linebacker, next linebacker, know about calling offensive plays? Marty shouting at me. Anyway, you know, here you are. You're in Cleveland. You're really kind of a hometown hero. You got those youngsters behind you screaming, Bernie, Bernie. Now, what's it like, really, coming back and being a hometown hero?
It's really been, the 4 years I've been here, it's really been unbelievably exciting. The team's been successful. The community is really drawn around our football team here, and for myself to be a part of it, growing up really an hour east of here and having my family and friends so close, it's been really, it's really been an exciting time for me.
Is there more pressure, though, being a hometown hero?
I think there's a little pressure that comes along with that. People expect a lot out of you, and they expect a lot out of this football team. But as we all know, pressure's a part of this game, and I think if you really expect a lot out of yourself and expect to be a good player in this league, you have to be able to handle the pressure and do well with it.
Now, for the first time in your career, you were on the sidelines, this time for 7 weeks, you know, with the arm problem. But you had an opportunity to look at your team on the field from the sideline. Did you see anything different in that ball club that you didn't know about them before?
I think that the thing that I learned about our football team studying it for 7 games as really a spectator is that you really need the whole football team to gel together, and we struggled and we're off on some tangents early in the season, and it caused us some problems. But as a team started playing together, and as we started to come together as a team and realize that it is a 45-man team that it takes to win, I think our football team has progressed and has helped us out.
Bernie, I tell you, you know, you've been called a lot of things as far as your style of the way you throw the ball and that. And are you over that stage worrying about what they say about how you throw the ball?
Yeah, Len, I can't get caught up in you know, what people say about how I look throwing the ball. I think really, as I think you could agree to, is that the only way quarterbacks are really truly judged is on wins and losses and end results. And how you look getting the job done, I really don't think is a factor as long as you're really result-oriented.
Let me ask you about your team. You know, the last 2 ball games that you played against the Denver Broncos for the championship, you lost. Do you think this team is now ready to be over that hump?
I think the main thing that we've learned over the last few football seasons, being in the playoffs and playing in big playoff games, is that we were a young football team, and we've had a lot of guys that have really had 6 or 7 playoff games of experience, and I really think that there's really no substitute for that type of NFL playoff experience of handling the pressure of playoff games. And I think that the last 2 losses against Denver, although obviously they're very tough games to swallow, I think that the football team has been able to bounce back from that. And I think it was evident by the way that most of our football team lives in Cleveland in the offseason, working and preparing, and that motivation, I think that drive is there to get over the hump this year.
Thank you very much, Bernie. Stay healthy. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Len.
Right now, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns is Marty Schottenheimer. But our NFL cover story is about the original coach of the Cleveland Browns who built a dynasty. His name, Paul Brown.
When I was a kid growing up, one of my favorite teams was the Cleveland Browns. They had players like Jim Brown, Bobby Mitchell, and Otto Graham. Great players on a team of winners. And they always seemed to be playing for the NFL championship. The man that was responsible for bringing all that talent together was Paul Brown, the same guy who was responsible for building these Cincinnati Bengals into championship contenders. Paul Brown is absolutely a football legend. He had tremendous coaching records in the 30s and 40s at an Ohio high school, Ohio State, and Great Lakes Military College. His rise to the pros came in 1946 when he coached the ragtag Cleveland team in the All-America Football Conference. Success came quickly as Brown had a talent for picking solid players who had spent several years in World War II away from football.
Take people like Marion Motley, Horace Gillen, Lou Groza, Mike McCormick, all these people that were with us just came with us after the service. They hadn't played pro football at all. I put it together from people that I knew from even Massillon High School.
Through 4 All-American titles, Brown was considered a major innovator in the game. He used classroom learning, playbooks, and game films for the first time. His scientific approach to football was quickly copied and is still in use today.
Some of the ideas caught on slowly. I think one of the first things that they suddenly began to do was hire the assistant coaches for year-round coaching. Up to that time, they'd been selling automobiles in the off-season and not even paying any attention to football.
From 1950, when Browns first entered the NFL, until 1962, they won 7 divisional titles. But in that year of '62, Paul's good fortune expired. New owner Art Modell fired him after a drop in the team's record and in owner-head coach relations.
He came to Cleveland and, well, the team was sort of yours truly. And I think he said could never be his. And with me, actually what happened was the whole staff stayed, just and the same system stayed. And the coach was one of my staff members.
Paul nursed his wounds until 1968, when he was asked back to Ohio to bring an AFL expansion team to Cincinnati. It was like the All-America Conference all over again. Paul Brown starting a team from scratch in his own image. No, they weren't called the Browns, but they looked like them, and they had initials CB like them. The legend was in rare form.
He'd stand in front of that team, and after he'd watched the film and taken notes, he told everybody exactly what he thought of their play. I remember his saying things that were so painfully honest, like, if you don't play better, we got to replace you. And I remember him saying one player, if you don't play better this week, this Sunday, we got to replace you.
A new Browns 300 miles south of Cleveland. Every time Paul plays Art Modell's team, Browns versus Bengals is a reminder.
We don't want it to be too obvious, but we want to make sure that we drop a reason for victory more than just another win. Paul really thinks this is an important game. He loves the Browns in one sense, but he'd like to go back and show them that where he is now has accomplished what he once did in Cleveland.
But at 80 years old, the personal revenge factor is wearing thin for Paul Brown. His son Mike runs much of the team now, and the old legend is left with easier days and a legacy with 2 top-notch teams.
I look forward to the routine of the thing. That's the way I've been all my life, and it's hard to change. I like it. I guess that's the only thing I can say. It's the way I have lived and enjoy. I'm sort of what they say, having your cake and eating it here now.
The sign on these windows says, "Go Browns," but if they win the Super Bowl, a lot of confetti will be coming from them because they'll be in a Super Bowl parade. Lenny, when you talk about tradition in the National Football League, you think of teams like the Packers, Giants, Bears, and of course the Cleveland Browns. There are some traditions here in Cleveland, such as no cheerleaders, no playing on artificial surface here in Cleveland, and no logo on the helmet.
They almost had one. I want to show the folks at home this program from 1946. I was going through it. Not only great players, but this was called a brownie. Little elf or something. When the players saw that on the program, they said, "Hey, I'm macho, mister. Ain't no way in the world that I'm going to be known as a brownie." That sign up there was to be "Go Brownies." No way in the world would that work. I played for Paul Brown here in Cleveland for 2 years, and I can tell you he was a very unique man. He brought coaching from the Stone Age to the modern age, Nick. He hired coaches the year around for the first time. A big thing that he did, he had the first playbook in the National Football League, so everything was very well organized. He was a man ahead of his time.
Paul Brown certainly coached and produced an awful lot of young players who ended up being great coaches in the National Football League. Weeb Eubank, Blanton Collier, Mike McCormick, Lou Saban, Chuck Noll, Chuck Knox, Don Shula, I'm sure plenty others. He certainly left a legacy here in Cleveland.
Nick, I think not only the people he coached and worked with, but also the opposition that had to play against him, they learned a great deal from Paul Brown.
Hey, Atlanta's Marion Campbell. He played during the years of the Paul Brown days. You know something? He must have learned patience under Paul Brown because he stuck with a young quarterback by the name of Chris Miller. And when he did that, he changed, and the fate of the Atlanta Falcons began to change. As you're going to see in our next segment, teams came from behind to win games. Now that shows an awful lot of character, but none more than Atlanta's win over the Philadelphia Eagles.
The bumpy road navigated by Randall Cunningham and the Eagles has been paved with miserable mistakes and magical come-from-behind wins. Philadelphia didn't plan on using magic to beat the lowly Falcons, but that plan quickly went up in smoke.
Back to throw again. And we knocked him from behind. And a big lineman, Gann, picks the ball up, is running down to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, and Mike Gann is going to take it in down there and score.
Mike Gann's touchdown return belied the fact that Atlanta ranks last in total defense, while quarterback Chris Miller directed an offense that gave no indication it is one of the NFL's lowest scoring units.
Looking, there's a man open in the corner, touchdown to Dixon, wide open down in the corner.
In short, the Falcons looked like winners for a change, and their 20-10 fourth quarter lead suggested that it was time once again for Cunningham and the Eagles to bring out the blue smoke and mirrors.
He floats it for Carter, who makes a great catch for a touchdown. Alley-oop! Alley-oop!
Chris Carter conjured an alley-oop catch that was sleight of hand at its most scintillating. Then 1 minute later, he appeared to turn the Falcons into pigeons.
Now he's going to throw a long bomb back over to the left side, and it is complete on the 10. Going in there is Chris Carter. He will score. They threw a 50-yard bomb deep on the left side, and old Lady Luck just stepped on your face again.
But after Carter's fourth quarter hocus pocus, the Falcons pulled off the winning trick.
Miller back to throw. Looking. Down the middle, and it is complete on the 15, touchdown! Michael Haynes right down the middle. Chris threw a perfect strike. Just like that in 2 plays, and that one was 50 yards like the other guys.
Miller's third touchdown pass of the day gave head coach Marion Campbell a come-from-behind triumph over the team that fired him 3 years ago. While last-gasp victories provided a pleasant moment for Campbell, such wins are just a haunting memory for Tom Landry. Where the Cowboys used to come from behind, this year they've been caught from behind on 2 occasions. And though Landry's tongue-in-cheek disposition is admirable, it can't overcome the questionable field vision of his quarterback. Steve Pelleur may not have seen the official, but he did get an up-close look at Phoenix's pass rush. Freddie Joe Nunn registered 3 sacks on the day, but Pelleur managed to rise and deliver.
Think blitz, Pelleur back to throw, throws it up over the middle, and Alexander catches it at the 35, and he's gone. Ray Alexander on a hot receiver.
Ray Alexander's 50-yard touchdown reception staked Dallas to a 10-0 third-quarter lead. But then Neil Lomax and the Cardinals conspired to create Landry's latest nightmare.
Snap is back, they stunt, they flush him out right, pump fake, hit by Cobb, throws the first down to the 35-yard line, and still spinning is Ernie Jones, still going to the 2.
The clutch receiving of number 86 Ernie Jones was complemented by the all-purpose production of running back Earl Farrell.
Over the middle, it's caught, it's a touchdown to Earl Farrell.
Farrell scored twice in the fourth quarter as the Cowboys crumbled in the final minute for the 3rd time this year, 16-10. Meanwhile, in Detroit, Lawrence Taylor had a rough time holding his competitive Fires in check as the Giants faced the 2-6 Lions. But then again, these days, one does not have to be wide awake to get a handle on a Detroit signal caller. The Lions' Rusty Hilger's frustration gave way to a more positive release of energy.
Hilger drops to throw. Giants rush 5. Hilger into the end zone. Chadwick, left corner. Touchdown in front of Perry Williams.
But the Lions could do no better than to force a short-lived overtime.
This is for the game. Spot. Kick up. Plenty distance. It's going to be good.
Paul McFadden's 33-yard field goal salvaged another less than inspiring New York effort. They don't much resemble the Super Bowl contenders many expected them to be. Still, the Giants' ability to come from behind has put them ahead in the NFC East. In Cleveland's 42-year history, primarily 3 players have been responsible for kicking the ball through the uprights. They are the legendary Lou the Toe Groza, steady Don Cockcroft, and current veteran Matt Barr.
That is an unusual statistic. I have another one. Up until 3 years ago, there had been only 3 players play the left offensive tackle position for the Cleveland Browns. Lou Groza, Dick Shafrath, and Doug Deacon. So it shows the Cleveland Browns love tradition. They also love punt returners if his name is Ice Cube. Gerald Ice Cube McNeil now is the #1 punt returner in the history of the Cleveland Browns. Congratulations on that. You're not a real large person. A lot of people might not know that. Let me ask you, 140-some pounds, do you have a problem keeping weight?
Well, I tell you, I probably have a little bit of a problem maintaining weight. I know I've been a little bit slight of form. I'm actually kind of beefed up from last year, Lynn. I'm about 145, which is about 6 or 7 pounds more than what I weighed during the playoffs last year. And I have a little bit of problem keeping weight on sometimes.
Now, I'm sure a lot of people out there say, my goodness, 140-some pounds, he must be scared to death back there. Is there any fear back there with you?
I feel so comfortable now. I think there's nothing wrong with you when they say practice makes perfect. I feel so comfortable when I'm back there now. I don't think of any of the fear. I know this year particularly, you know, with all the injuries around, and I saw one the other night with the punt returner down in Houston. You know, those are the type of things you don't want to tend to look at all the time, but I'm never fearful back there. What I try and do is open my eyes and see everything now.
Good idea. Can you ever use your size to your advantage?
Size is definitely my plus. I'd like to say that my quickness is probably what has enabled me to, you know, to be a good punt returner. You get a guy coming right at you at 280. If I give him a move or two, you know, I can kind of get away from him. I'm not going to run through him, that's for sure. I'm going to run around him. You know, I'm not going to try and go through too many people with my size.
Gerald, a guy from Houston, Texas, comes to Cleveland. The wind's blowing off the lake. It's in December. The snow is falling, and you're sitting back there receiving a punt. What is it like under those conditions?
Those conditions are probably the hardest I've ever had to attest to when I first came here. I know down in Houston we had the dome there. You know, we also had the good weather, 80 degrees down in Houston. And, you know, prior to coming here, when I first got there, I'm like, oh, man, Everybody's telling me, you know, it's great now. Just wait till December. Wait till that wind gets to kick up. And boy, let me tell you, 30 below zero or something like that with that wind chill factor, it's kind of tough to catch that ball. The thing you want to do, though, is protect the ball. I generally say that, okay, I've got to catch it first before I do anything with it, and that's what I generally try and do.
Joe, you're such an outstanding punt returner. Why don't you return kickoffs? Are there such a difference between the two of them?
You know, Nick, prior to this season coming in, I went to Marty. Last year, I handled those duties in our offense, and I said, you know, I'm 140 pounds. There is a difference between kickoffs and punt returns. Punt returns, you're more elusive. I can use my quickness and, you know, my size to run away from people. But kickoffs, it's north and south and getting the hole. And 140 running into 260, 250, that didn't kind of, you know, figure too well on my body. So I thought that my body would feel a lot better. I thought I'd be able to help the team out a lot more. So I asked not to do the kickoff returns duty this year.
Yeah, you can get up on Mondays a lot better.
Yeah, just a little bit better out the bed.
You know, you got up Monday this week after defeating Cincinnati, feeling real good, but now you're back into the frying pan. You got to go back to your home in Houston to take on the Oilers. How are you looking at that game? What's it going to be like?
Isn't it something about football? It's the nature of this business, you know. We won that big game Sunday afternoon. We got to savor that victory for, what, 3 hours? Because Houston was playing Washington tonight, and, boy, you know, they looked very, very good. So here we are on our way to Houston again. Every year, you know, prior to going to Houston, they're always hot and they're always, you know, playing very well. We got to be at the top of our game going down to Houston this week.
Is it special for you because you're from that area?
Very special. I have all my family, my friends, my wife and I both are from Houston. Our home is in Houston, and we always love to play well there. I cannot go home without playing well in Houston, so I look forward to playing in it this week.
Gerald, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Congratulations on the year so far, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Now, we've been talking about teams playing great defenses, quarterbacks rising to the occasion, teams coming from behind to win. Now let's take a look at a few teams that are struggling just to survive.
The day before Halloween, and wouldn't you know it, the guy with the best costume in Seattle is on the sidelines. But with Brian Bosworth recovering from shoulder surgery, the visiting Chargers ran into some unexpected obstacles. Squashing the referee like a pumpkin may have been some people's idea of holiday mischief, but Charger quarterback Mark Malone preferred to get his Halloween treats by more conventional means.
Malone backtracks to throw, throws, caught! Anthony Miller, touchdown, San Diego!
Malone's 2 scoring strikes to Anthony Miller brought the Chargers close, but it wasn't enough to prevent San Diego's 5th straight loss.
Stopper to throw, looks, throws, end zone, caught, touchdown, Brian Blades.
The Seahawks held on long enough to unmask the real Chargers, who will try to dress up like a winner this week against the Raiders. In Los Angeles, the Raiders aren't exactly reflecting the success of their gloried past. And on Sunday, the visiting Chiefs look to remove even more luster from the Silver and Black's playoff hopes. Believe it or not, Paul Palmer's scoring run was Kansas City's first rushing touchdown of the year. But while the Chiefs' running attack is a well-kept secret, the Raiders' ground game is hardly a mystery. Number 34, Bo Jackson, combined with Marcus Allen for 150 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, as the Raiders ran over the Chiefs 17-10. At 4-5, Los Angeles remained only a game back in the AFC West. And for at least a day, Raider fans were relieved of some of their recent misery. There seems to be no relief in sight, however, in Tampa Bay, where the 2-7 Buccaneers qualify as a national disaster. But with Joe Ferguson starting in place of an injured Vinny Testaverde on Sunday, Tampa Bay was dishing out the kind of charity that has made them the NFL leaders in giveaways. The Buccaneers coughed up 4 fumbles on the day, 3 of them during a 5-play stretch that helped set up both Dan Marino's scoring strikes to Mark Clayton.
Man open, touchdown in the end zone to Mark Clayton. He really ripped that one and hit him in the numbers. He was wide, smack dab open, so the Dolphins get on.
The Dolphins rammed another hole in the Buccaneers' ship, and after 4 straight losses, it's sinking fast. But look who's here to save the day in New York. It's Captain Colgate. He was on hand Sunday at the Meadowlands to remind the Jets to brush between meals, floss twice a day, and to make sure they filled their cavities on defense. New York entered the game with the AFC's #1 rated rushing defense, but Ernest Jackson and the Steelers found enough holes to build a 10-0 first quarter lead. But Pittsburgh's defense is in need of far more fillings than New York's, and Jets quarterback Ken O'Brien knew just where to do the drilling.
Roll out to the right, a pass into the right corner, touchdown! Touchdown! Into the right side! Mickey Shula.
The Jets posted their first ever victory over the Steelers in 10 tries and will attempt to put the bite on the Colts this week in Indianapolis. Last Monday night, Colts fans held a huge Halloween bash, only to have the Broncos arrive unfashionably late. Steve Sewell's fourth quarter touchdown catch on a Gary Kubiak shovel pass came long after the Broncos had been buried by a man that opponents regard as the Hoosier Dome's most terrifying inhabitant. Dickerson, the league's leading rusher, romped through the league's lowest-rated rushing defense for 159 yards and a career-high 4 touchdowns. In the process, Dickerson eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark for an NFL record-tying 6th consecutive season. But Dickerson wasn't the only character in the Broncos' Monday nightmare. The Colts scored on 7 of their 9 first-half possessions and built a 45-10 halftime lead to fall just 4 points shy of the NFL record, 4.5 points. At final count, the Colts had leveled Denver 55-23, making the first ever Monday night game in Indianapolis a smashing success. After a less than imposing 1-5 start, the Colts have now won 3 straight, and they could get even more frightening as the season wears on. December 27, 1964, a Browns magic moment. Against Baltimore in the 1964 championship game, Cleveland shocked the sports world by shutting out the heavily favored Colts 27-0. Led by Gary Collins' 3 touchdown catches, the Browns captured their 4th NFL title.
Ah, yes, I remember that scene, but that magic moment was almost a quarter of a century ago, and for that reason, you can understand why the people in Cleveland are starved for another magic moment just like that one. Well, folks, we're going to give you a magic moment right now because brightening up your screen is Gordon Forbes, fresh off the bus here at Public Square. And I see you got rid of all those pigeons. We appreciate that, Gordon. But, Gordon, this is a city where they're concerned about quarterbacks because they had 3 of them go down. And I understand that you have some information that may help solve some of this problem.
Well, that's right, Len. Just when we thought all the rules had been used up to protect the quarterback, they're coming up with another simple rule. They're going to allow intentional grounding of the ball. That's what the owners are going to discuss at their next meeting. And this would, in effect, make a quarterback able to run away from a pass rusher, throw the ball on the ground, and then the play would end.
Well, I think that's a pretty good idea, you know. You can throw the ball away to save time. Now, why not throw it away to save one's life?